starting pay, fighting for translation rights for immigrant pay workers. We're trying to fight for a strong Teamster contract. But more than that, we think we need to rebuild a fighting labor movement. What do you think? Any serious anti-war movement has to hit the bosses where they hurt the most, and that means their profits. Did anyone here see the 33,000 Boeing workers go on strike in Washington State recently?
Yeah!
And did you see the port workers on the East and Gulf Coast go on strike recently? Imagine if those unions had leadership that were willing to buck the trend of following government mandates and actually stop the flow of arms to Israel and other occupiers. In 1968, students led a mass movement in France that ultimately, when the working class joined, 10 million strong in a general strike shut the entire country down. That's what we need today. Now we know this occupation has been going on for longer than many of us have been alive. And if there isn't the active intervention of students and workers fighting together across national boundaries, it'll continue. The attacks on Gaza and now Lebanon are a threat to oppress people everywhere, not just in the Middle East. From Palestinians, from other Arab workers, to the Congo, to Sudan, to genocidal wars happening around the world. The longer that this goes on, the longer the justifications of the bosses will be used to oppress, to slaughter, to massacre innocent working class people. But what will it take to end this? Of course, protests like this are important, but we all know this isn't the end of it. To actually end the massacre in Gaza, to end the spread towards regional war in the Middle East, and the potential shock points that could lead to another global war, we need revolution. We need international solidarity. Where does that start? That starts with students on campuses holding protests like this and not stopping there, but involving campus workers. Last year, in the encampments in California, UAW 4811 members stood in solidarity and took strike action against the occupation and against the repression that students were facing when they were standing up for Palestinian rights. That's what we need to see today. Many unions have passed ceasefire resolutions, but we need more than that. It's not enough to stand in words, but we need to see stances in action. Imagine if these same unions decided to break from the two corporate parties that are funding this occupation. Imagine the signal that that would send. That's what we need to see more of. We need a decisive break with the two corporate parties, because even if Trump doesn't win in November, we know this occupation is going to keep going on because there are structural interests for U.S. capitalism and for U.S. imperialism to maintain the occupation in Israel-Palestine. That means, concretely, we can't vote for those parties. Now, I know there is a real danger of Donald Trump being elected, and certainly a Trump presidency will be no friend to Palestinian workers or the rest of us. But for us to send a strong signal, it means that we can't just give our votes unqualified to a party that is providing justifications and excuses for a genocidal war in the Middle East. For myself, as a member of Socialist Alternative, as a militant rank-and-file unionist, I couldn't stomach voting for either of the two major candidates, and I'm planning to vote for Jill Stein. But even if you don't vote that way, this fight doesn't end in November. We are not defeating imperialism at the ballot box. We are not defeating Trumpism on the far right at the ballot box. That's not where you've seen major victories for the working class. We see that in the streets, in the workplaces, and on campus. This fight is a fight for organized working class people in this country and around the world to stand up and fight back. Nothing less than that. Just want to end with some words from revolutionary brother Fred Hampton, who said, "You don't fight fire with fire. You fight fire with water. We don't fight capitalism with progressive capitalism. You fight capitalism with basic socialism. You fight capitalism by people's needs. We need money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Solidarity